Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Welcome back. Today we are talking about cutting supplies. This is the 5th day of week 2 of the Nona Quilt. This whole week we've been talking about the supplies and materials that you need for quilting. We've covered sewing machines, fabric, batting. Yesterday we talked about thread, and today we're talking about cutting supplies. You do need a few cutting supplies to make a quilt, so let's start talking about them. The first thing we'll talk about today are rotary cutters. So this is a rotary cutter, and it's used to cut fabric. There are different size rotary cutters. This one is a 45mm cutter. I would say this is the average one that you can use every single day for quilting. There's a smaller one that's like kind of good for curves and details, and then there's a larger one, a 60mm, if you want to cut a lot of layers at once. But this is the one that I've used every single day for more than 5 years, and it's fantastic. This brand is Olfa. I love their stuff. They were the first ones that invented the rotary cutter. It's high quality, it lasts, and I just love this design. So they make a couple different ones. This one's my favorite, and the way that you use this one, it has this little lock here that's a safety. So when this lock is pushed through to this side, I cannot open this blade. So the blade is extremely sharp. It is very easy to cut yourself with these. So you need to be really careful, always be focused and paying attention when you're using one, and always cut in the safest way. So in general, that's away from your body, not towards your body, making sure that your hands are always away from this cutter. Rotary cutters are used in conjunction with a ruler and a mat. So we're gonna go over the rulers and the mats in a minute, but I just wanna show you a little more about this. So this red button here that goes through the side, right now it's locked. So when I try to squeeze this black part, nothing happens. When I unlock it, now I can squeeze this in and the blade comes out. And then this is the side that will be on my mat cutting my fabric. It works kind of like a pizza cutter, but for the safest way, you shouldn't use it freehand. You should use it against an acrylic ruler, which I'll show you those in a second. The actual blade is extremely sharp. As with anything that cuts things, they wear. So the rotary blade can get replaced. They sell replacements in little packs like this, and you can get them in bulk. They come in like packs of, you can buy them in packs of 1, 2, 10, 15. So they come in little packs like this, and there is a screw on the back here that you undo, and this will come apart, and you can put your new blade in, close it back up, and then use it. So there's not like a set amount of time that if you use your rotary cutter for, let's say, 5 hours, you have to change the blade. There's not like a time, but you'll notice that it won't be difficult to cut. You'll be pushing down harder, which is something that isn't necessary. If you have a sharp blade, you barely have to push. It just like cuts right through the fabric. So you'll be having to push harder to get it to cut. Sometimes you'll cut and like little threads will still be connected. Those are clues that you need to change your rotary blade. You know, they are an expense to have to always replace this rotary blades, but it's best to just like bite that bullet and know that you're going to have to replace these, because working with a sharp blade makes cutting so much easier. It's quick, it's smooth, your pieces are cut out accurately, because if you have a blade that's dull and you're like can't get through the fabric, your pieces are not going to be cut accurately, and it is going to affect how the shape of the pieces and how they get pieced into the quilt. So just know that you are going to have to replace these. I like to just keep a bunch of packs on hand so that I always know I have blades, and as I start going through them, I'll replace them, and they don't go bad, so you can just grab a bunch and just keep it, and that way you're always set when it comes to rotary blades. Let me show you what rotary cutters are used with. This here is my cutting mat. Now this is a self-healing cutting mat that is designed to use with a rotary cutter. They call it self-healing because as you make the cuts on this, the component that the board is made of kind of like reseals those cuts so that you can keep cutting on this for a long time and it will last. They make these in a ton of different sizes. The size that I love best is like a 24 by 36 or something like that, because I can cut, it's really, I have it turned sideways, so this is the 24 here and the 36 goes that way, and I can lay out a bolt of fabric and I can cut yardage easily on this, or I could cut something small. So this is my favorite size, but the size that you use depends on the space that you have. There are foldable ones that there's like a wavy line and you can just pick it up and fold it. So those are great if you're tight on space and you need to put it away when you're finished. They have really small ones. If you're just cutting like a little piece, you can have that. It's a travel size. They have rotating ones that if you are cutting some pieces and say you cut here and you don't want to move your block, you just rotate the cutting mat and then cut the other side. So those are really handy. If you don't have a spot to leave your cutting mat out flat, you want to make sure that you do have a spot to hang it. So the size of your space and what you need to do, like how much you need to clean up after every project, will kind of determine the size of the cutting mat you need, because you at least need to be able to hang it up. If you just like set it on the floor, these edges will start to turn and be wavy, and you won't be able to get accurate cuts. Now my cutting mat is also reversible. They're not all reversible, but a lot of them are. So I have one side that's black and one side that's white, and I can choose to use, and I typically always use the white, but it's nice to have the black there if I want to flip it over. Now, the rotary cutter and the mat are used in conjunction with rulers. I have 3 main rulers that I use all the time, and they're the ones that I recommend a beginner to get. Literally, you could make every single quilt with these 3 rulers. There are tons of specialty rulers that are awesome for things, but if you don't want to, invest in specialty rulers, you can do anything you want with these. You'll find that there are people who love rulers, all different kinds, and they like to collect them and use them, and that's great too. But if you don't want to collect a lot of rulers, or you don't have a lot of space for them, you don't need the specialty rulers. Now, they do make life easier with certain things, but you can decide, if you want to have a ruler for a function or not. So these are my 3 favorites. I have a 6.5 inch square, and there are 2 brands that I love. One brand is OmniGrid, and the other brand is Creative Grids. Fantastic. I'd recommend those to anyone. So this is an OmniGrid. This is a 6.5 inch square ruler. I love this one. I use it and pretty much I use all 3 of these rulers every day. So if I'm cutting something small out or trimming up a piece, this is the one I'll go to. The next is the 12.5 inch square, and this is again OmniGrid. So I use this if I have something bigger than 6.5 inches, I'll use this. It's so versatile, I use it a ton. The last one that I recommend you to have is a 6.5 by 24.5 inch ruler. So this is also an OmniGrid. This is a really long ruler, 24.5 inches. This is fantastic for cutting yardage. So you'll know from the fabric video that fabric yard, when it comes off the bolt, it's folded in half, and the measurement is about 21 to 22 inches. So this is a 24.5 inch ruler. That means you could lay down folded yardage and cut strips or whatever you need. So this is a fantastic ruler. For the Nona Quilt Along, you're gonna need to have this one, 6.5 inch by 24.5 inch. And you're gonna need to have the 6.5 inch square ruler. We don't really need the 12.5 inch square for the Nona Quilt because we're either cutting yardage or small pieces. So if you're just looking for rulers to get started for this quilt along, these are the 2 that you'll need. And you'll use these in conjunction with your rotary cutter and your cutting mat. We're gonna go into a lot of detail of how to cut the fabric next week in week 3, but I just wanna show you the way that you use this. So I just unlocked my blade. I'm going to keep my hand on my roller. I'm making sure nothing is hanging down. If you have a piece hanging down off of your roller, that is a part of you that can get cut. So your hands stay completely on the roller. The rotary cutter comes right up next to the roller and it runs against the edge. And you always push it away from yourself. That's the safest way. Don't ever bring it back. As soon as I'm done cutting, I close it and lock it. Out of habit, you'll probably hear that in all my videos, that if I'm cutting something, you're gonna hear that clicking, because as soon as I'm done cutting, I close it and lock it. I don't ever wanna forget and just leave it out for myself and also for my kids. If they come over here and this blade is out, that's extremely dangerous for them. So I always make sure, like as soon as I make a cut, I close it, lock it, and I'm done. That's what I love about this one, is the lock. There are other ones that Olfa also makes that are really good cutters, but they don't have a lock on them. So I love this one personally, and this is the one I'll probably use forever. The last cutting supply to talk about is scissors. So we are lucky that we have the rotary cutter with the ruler and the mat, that we don't have to cut our quilts with scissors like they used to, but you still do use scissors in quilting. So my favorite scissors are Ginger. I have a variety of sizes of these, so I just want to show you some of the ones I have. So this is one pair. These scissors are high quality. They are expensive, but they are built to last a lifetime. These can get sharpened. You can take them to some quilt shops will sharpen them. You can look up scissor sharpening places in your area. Often quilt shops have the tools to do that, and sometimes even places like Joann Fabrics has that. So a lot of the Gingers, they come with these little sheaths, which is really nice. So I usually try to keep them in the sheath when I'm not using them. They have a lot of different styles and designs, so you can find the one that's right for you. So this is a pair that I use all the time. Then I have this really big pair. This is a 10-inch pair that I use to cut from yardage. I've used these for years now, and I need to sharpen them. So I'm gonna be looking into that. They also make small pairs like this, and these are good for snipping threads close to your quilt, embroidery, like more detailed work. So again, I think I showed you 3 pairs of the Gingers, but I know I have, let me show you. I have a pair in between these two in one of my bags. So I have a middle size, and then I also have a one size bigger than these. So I love those. They're reliable and fantastic. Another pair of scissors that I like to keep. Now, I get questions about these all the time, and I don't always know where to direct you. I have these 2 pairs of large handled, I think they're probably called embroidery scissors. And it's mostly because the blades are small and they're easy to cut detail work. Now, this pair I can't find anywhere. So this is my favorite pair to just have by my sewing machine and use. The handles, I love how they feel. It's like the perfect weight, perfect size to just snip thread. So, and when I have like overhangs on half square triangles and stuff, which if you don't quilt yet, you might not know what that is, but don't worry, I'll show you. I use these to snip it, and they're fantastic. Because I couldn't find these anymore, I bought these. These I just got on Amazon, and I just searched like large handle embroidery scissors, and these came up. So they're not as great as that first pair, but they're pretty good. So I use these now. And then it's even nice to have a smaller pair too. So this is a really small pair. Again, these would be called like embroidery scissors. They're so small that you can get right up next to a project and just snip something without damage of like cutting the whole quilt. If you tried to snip a thread with these, you would never be as exact as you could as with these. So I like to have a variety of scissors, and no, we're not like hand cutting the fabric like they used to, but I do use these a lot. So cutting yardage from the bolt, there are some quilt units that you might not be familiar with. Like I just said, the half square triangles, I use my scissors to trim those edges. Flying geese, that's one type of unit that I always use scissors to trim. So while my rotary cutter is the real worker here, I do use scissors every day too. I also like to keep a pair of like junky scissors like this. These are just like regular generic scissors you can find anywhere, and I use these to cut paper. So my good scissors, I only cut fabric or thread with, and if I need to cut paper, I have a pair of these around, and these would be the ones that I cut paper with. And that's all for today for the cutting supplies. If you have any questions on this, just leave it in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer. And I'll see you back here tomorrow for the next installment. Thanks for following along.